Micro-fulfillment centers. Well, joining us today to speak about that, Jack Peck, president of FastFetch Corporation. Jack, good to see you once again. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
Jack, for anybody that might not be entirely familiar with FastFetch Corporation, just give us briefly, a description of the company, what it does, what's the area that you focus on.
Okay, well, FastFetch was incorporated in 2006, and we specialize in order fulfillment, which represents about 60 to 70% of the labor in a distribution center, and also packaging. We have some new solutions in packaging that we've introduced and showing at the show here. My background in itself is I was professor of computer science at Clemson University for many years, doing a lot of theoretical work and optimization, and decided I was going to leave the university and retire and put into practice some of the things I used to do in the research lab.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's good to hear that just what the company is all about. You just made mention of the event where we are speaking to each other, and that is MODEX. Just want to get that on the record. Okay, so micro-fulfillment centers. Let's define our terms. What are they? Walk us through that, if you would.
Well, basically, the idea has been around for a while. They didn't use that terminology until fairly recently. We used to just call them small or very itty-bitty distribution centers, and perhaps a whole bunch of them, because it's a big one isn't necessarily right for everyone.
Mm-hmm. Well, the question, I guess, is this: is the industry heading in that direction? Is that what's going, where we're going?
I believe it is. In fact, the terminology was coined fairly recently because other people also now are starting to believe some of the things we've been talking about for years. One of our customers, I won't name them because I haven't received their approval quite yet, but one of our customers has a major distribution center in the middle of the country, and they have what they call velocity centers in other parts of the country, which are smaller distribution centers, and they actually send product from their main distribution center to the smaller ones because the smaller ones are closer to the customers. So that terminology, micro, is a reflection of what is continuing to happen in terms of making smaller and smaller distribution centers, and many more of them.
Okay, so it is reflective of size, but let's drill down there and talk about typical size. What is the size of this typical fulfillment center?
Well, it depends a fair amount on the size of the product and the number of SKUs that you're going to be maintaining.
Give us some examples if you can.
You might look at a major distribution center as being 1.5 million square feet. A micro-fulfillment center might be 50,000, 20,000 square feet, and only hold those products which are fast movers that people might want in really quick delivery.
Mm-hmm. Well, let me ask you this. Is this something that one might want to use in preference to working through one of these warehousing operations where you're sharing space with other companies?
Well, it could be. However, most of those are really because the business, whether it be selling brooms or computers or whatever it is, really doesn't want to get into the distribution business. They want to stay within the domain of their really knowledge and their strengths, so they'll just contract that out to people, 3PLs, third-party logistics companies, that actually run the distribution centers for them. That's a little different than micro-fulfillment, but it could be an example of some forms of micro-fulfillment.
Now, are we talking about taking existing space and turning it into one of these micro-fulfillment centers, or is it building from scratch?
It could be either one. I personally think when we look at the future that retail, of course, is declining. We think e-commerce, we think companies like Amazon that are online, and so the question is, where should we be putting our efforts for distribution? What's happening to retail as it shrinks? Well, there's a lot of property available as retail tends to go away. We think of Sears, Toys R Us, other companies that had rough goes in the past several years. There's a lot of retail space available that could be used in other ways. Those might be good candidates for micro-fulfillment centers.
Well, now, here's a question. Are we making a distinction between fulfilling from a store as opposed to fulfilling from a separate standalone facility when we talk about a micro-fulfillment center?
Well, the term omni-channel has been around for several years now, and it originally started with the idea that we could have retail stores that did a little bit of fulfillment. When the clerks in the retail stores weren't really busy, they could put things in cartons from the shelves and ship them out to the customers who might have ordered them. It's changing now. It's changing from a lot of retail and a little distribution to perhaps a lot of distribution and a little retail. But in fact, the retail might be transforming into really showrooms that illustrate the product. I know that some people have said that there are some retailers in computers, for example. Somebody goes down the street, looks at a retailer, sees what they're offering, looks at the product, and then goes back and orders it online from somebody else. Well, the idea of having the shipper close to you is attractive. You can get it sooner, but you still want to look at the product many times.
Mm-hmm. Let's final question deals with the implications for this technology as you see that going forward. What's the story there?
Well, what I think is that we're seeing a real change. People are used to now 2-day delivery. They really like 1-day delivery. And they would like same-day delivery. And you've probably seen some of the things on TV about drones that are going to be delivering things. Well, right now the radius of a drone is about 25 miles because it has to get home. And if you believe that that's going to become more and more popular, I do, over the years, particularly in major metropolitan areas, then we're going to have distribution centers that are each about 50 miles apart, so each one can service a radius of 25 miles. Well, if you have distribution centers that are about 50 miles apart, you're going to have a whole lot of them. And furthermore, you're going to have to be able to get the product out on them very quickly to the customers. Same day, drones, automobiles, whatever is going to get it to them. And because of that, that's the motivation for micro fulfillment centers.
And you feel that that is realizable, having that many small fulfillment centers 50 miles or so apart from each other. That is in fact the wave of the future.
In the past we've had retailers that were that way, and as the retailers get transformed into micro fulfillment centers, yes, that can happen.
What an exciting future you have just outlined for us.
One thing that I'd like to cover, one more question that I would ask myself really, being in the business of order fulfillment, is what implications does this have on the technology? We have to be aware of that since we're technology builders. And so the technology, as I see it, is going to be not so much expensive. It can't be if you have a lot of distribution centers that are small. It's going to be less expensive. People are still going to be in the distribution centers. What you really want to do is to make those people much more effective, much more efficient, get more out of them. And so I look at it as an opportunity to develop technology that will make people be more efficient rather than putting in more expensive technology.
Well, then you've outlined not just a fascinating and interesting future, but one that's lucrative for any number of people seeking employment. Jack, again, I thank you very much for sitting down and speaking with us today.
Certainly welcome, I enjoyed it.
Jack Peck, Fast Fetch Corporation, speaking with us today about micro fulfillment centers. Thank you for watching.